Kyle Harrison stood in the large round room aboard the space station. His heart was beating fast. This was the most important day of his life, and maybe the most important day for all of Earth. He was here to ask the Alien Council if humans could join their group of space civilizations. The room was amazing. The walls were made of crystal that changed colors. Right now, they were yellow and orange, which Kyle had learned meant the aliens were worried and suspicious. 12 different alien species sat on high platforms around the room. Some looked like giant insects. Others were like clouds of gas floating in special containers. Some looked like reptiles with scales and cold eyes. In the center of the room stood the most important alien of all. His name was Jothik, and he was the leader of the Zathari people. They were the oldest and most powerful race in the galaxy. Jothik was very tall with 4 arms and many eyes that looked at Kyle like he was something dirty on the floor. Kyle wore his best diplomatic suit. He had practiced his speech for months. Earth had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Children back home dreamed of visiting other planets. Scientists had worked day and night to prove humans were smart enough to join the galactic community. Everything depended on what happened in the next few minutes. Jothik spoke, and Kyle heard the words through a device in his brain that translated alien languages. The voice was cold and filled with dislike. "Human, you stand before the Galactic Council. We have looked at your application. We do not think your species is good enough to join us." Kyle felt his stomach drop. But he kept his face calm. He had been trained for this. "Hi, Arbiter, if I could explain why Earth would be a good member—" "No," Jothik interrupted. "Your people are primitive. Your technology is basic. Your planet is divided by stupid wars. You have nothing good to offer the galaxy. You only bring chaos and violence. We have studied your history. Your species loves war and destruction." "That is not fair," Kyle said, trying to keep his voice respectful. "Humans have changed a lot in the past 100 years. We have united our world. We have stopped major wars. We have—" "Silence!" another alien shouted. This one was named Vexalik, and he looked like a giant snake. "You speak without permission? This proves you are barbarians. You do not understand basic civilized behavior." The crystal walls turned red. Kyle felt his own anger rising but pushed it down. He had been warned that some aliens found humans scary and dangerous, but he had not expected them to hate humans so much without even giving them a chance. "If the council would let me show what humans can do," Kyle started to say. "There will be no demonstration," Jothik said firmly. "This council has decided. Humanity is denied membership. You must stay in your own solar system for 500 years. Maybe by then, you will have evolved past your violent nature." 500 years. Kyle felt like someone had punched him in the chest. That meant his children, their children, and many generations after would never see the stars. All of Earth's hopes and dreams were dying right here in this room. "Hi, Arbiter, I must protest," Kyle said. His voice was shaking a little. "You judge us without really knowing us. You do not understand what makes humans special." "Special?" Jothik said the word like it tasted bad. "Every species thinks they are special. You are not. You are just another aggressive, primitive race. The galaxy has seen thousands like you before. Now leave this room before we punish you even more." Kyle's training told him to bow politely and leave, to accept defeat and try again in the future. But something inside him, something very human, refused to accept this. He could not go back to Earth and tell billions of people that their dreams were over because these aliens would not even listen. "No," Kyle said quietly. The room went completely silent. The crystal walls flickered between many colors, confused. "What did you say?" Jothik leaned forward. His massive body seemed to fill the whole room. "I said no." Kyle's voice got stronger. "I will not leave without making you understand. You want to know what makes humans special? What makes us worthy of the stars? Let me show you." Before anyone could stop him, Kyle walked toward Jothik's platform. Security robots started to fly down from the ceiling. Their weapons began to glow with energy. But Kyle ignored them. He had one chance to make these aliens see humans as more than just violent primitives. "Human, stay back," Jothik ordered. But Kyle could hear something new in the alien's voice. Uncertainty. In all of Jothik's long life, no one had ever defied him like this. Kyle reached the platform. His heart was pounding, his hands were shaking, but he knew what he had to do. Every rule of diplomacy said this was crazy. Every protocol said this would end in disaster. But Kyle was human, and humans did not give up without a fight. He reached out his hand and did something that was completely forbidden. Something that no species had done in 10,000 years of galactic history. Something that broke every diplomatic rule. Kyle touched High Arbiter Jothik. His hand made contact with the alien's arm, which felt hard like armor. For a second, nothing happened. Then everything changed. Energy exploded outward from where Kyle was touching Jothik. Kyle could not see it, but he felt it. A wave of something powerful rushed through his body and out into the space station, into the galaxy itself. His hand tingled with a strange feeling, like electricity but different. Like he had just touched something huge and ancient and completely beyond his understanding. Jothik stood frozen. His forearms were shaking. His many eyes had turned completely white. A sound like metal grinding came from his throat. Around the room, other aliens were reacting strangely. Some fell down in their seats. Others started screaming. The crystal walls went crazy, showing every color at once before turning pure white. Kyle stepped back, looking at his hand like it belonged to someone else. What did I do?" he whispered. "What have you done?" Jothik's voice was different now. The coldness was gone. Now there was only shock and something that sounded like fear. No species touches the Zathari. It is forbidden. It is forbidden for exactly this reason. A woman rushed toward Kyle. Her name was Lisa Chen, and she was the head scientist for Earth's alien psychology team. She had been watching everything from the human section of the room. In her hand was a device that showed numbers and graphs. Her eyes were getting bigger as she read the information. "It is too late," Jothik said. His voice sounded tired and old. "The connection has been made. The bridge is open. The galaxy can now feel what humanity feels." "What do we feel?" Kyle asked. He felt scared and confused. Lisa looked at her device again. Her face went pale. According to this, every alien species that uses the consciousness network just felt a burst of human emotions. They felt our anger, our creativity, our fear, our love, our drive to survive, and everything else that makes us human. The room exploded with noise. Aliens from 12 different species started shouting at once. Some sounded scared. Others sounded angry. A few even sounded excited. "This is a crime against the galaxy," Senator Vexilic shouted. His snake-like body was coiled tight with rage. "The human has weaponized first contact." "I did not mean to," Kyle tried to say. "Your intentions do not matter." Draken's crystal body flashed with bright red light. "What matters is what you did. Do you understand what has happened? For millions of years, the galactic consciousness has been peaceful and logical. The elder species spent forever creating a network of pure reason and enlightened thought. And you just dumped billions of years of human emotional baggage into it." A new alarm went off. This one was deeper and sounded more dangerous. The crystal walls showed a map of the whole galaxy. Kyle watched in horror as millions of tiny lights started flashing in strange patterns. "What is happening?" he asked, though he was afraid to know the answer. Jothik slowly came down from his platform. He moved like an old person who was very tired. When he spoke, everyone in the room stopped to listen. "The network is changing. It is not rejecting the human patterns. It is adapting to them. The human emotional matrix is too strong, too intense. It is overriding hundreds of years of carefully balanced psychic energy." "You mean," Lisa started to say. "I mean," Jothik continued, "that every alien species in the galaxy that uses telepathy, empathy, or quantum links is now experiencing human emotions for the first time. They are feeling anger. Real, primitive anger. They are feeling fear that does not make logical sense. They are feeling passion that is beyond reason." The galaxy map showed whole sections of space flashing red. Reports started coming in from everywhere. The Peaceful Harmony Collective had broken into arguments. The Logical Algorithmic Conclave was reporting errors in their shared mind. The Luminary, who were beings made of pure energy and had not felt emotions in 10,000 years, were suddenly having what humans would call mood swings. "How do we fix this?" Kyle asked desperately. "Fix it?" Jothik turned to look at him. Kyle saw something in those alien eyes that made him feel cold inside. "Ambassador Harrison, you do not understand. This cannot be fixed. What you have done cannot be undone. You have changed the basic nature of galactic consciousness itself. But I was just trying to make you understand us." "Oh, they understand now," Lisa said quietly. Her device was showing readings that did not make sense. The entire galaxy understands exactly what it means to be human, and they are terrified. The room shook as energy waves rippled through the station's systems. Outside the windows, space itself seemed to shimmer and bend. Ships were going into emergency mode. Communication networks were overloaded with panicked messages. Kyle Harrison had come to the Galactic Council to prove humanity was valuable. Instead, he had accidentally infected an entire galaxy with the most dangerous thing humans had: their raw, unfiltered, completely unpredictable emotions. 6 hours after Kyle touched Jothik, the crisis was spreading faster than anyone could believe. Admiral Greg Mitchell stood on the bridge of Earth's only deep space military ship, the Endeavour. He watched holographic displays that showed the situation getting worse. His crew was working hard, but he could see worry in their eyes. "Admiral, we are getting thousands of distress signals," said Lieutenant Jake Morrison. He was working at the communication station. "The Vrakesh Hive is fighting among themselves. The Nathari Collective is breaking apart. The Draktar Empire says they are having emotional instability across their whole military." "What does that even mean?" Greg asked, though he thought he knew. Dr. Amy Foster was the ship's science officer. She put information on the main screen. "It means species that have not felt emotions for thousands of years are suddenly feeling them with full force. Imagine if you had never felt anger before, and suddenly it hit you all at once. No way to control it, no way to cope with it, no understanding of what is happening." "God help us," Greg said quietly. "We accidentally gave the entire galaxy emotional puberty." "It is worse than that," Amy said. She highlighted certain areas on the map. "The Zathari are not just individuals. They are anchor points for the Galactic Consciousness Network. When Kyle touched High Arbiter Jothik, he basically plugged humanity directly into the galaxy's nervous system. Every emotion, every thought pattern that makes humans human is now bleeding into species that evolved completely differently." "Can we shut it down?" Greg asked. "We do not even understand it," Amy replied. "This is technology and biology so far beyond us that we are like cave people trying to turn off a nuclear reactor." The communications panel lit up with new warnings. Jake looked up. His face was pale. "Admiral, the Galactic Council has issued an emergency decree. They are declaring humanity a Class A existential threat. All member species can use any force necessary to contain us." "They are going to attack Earth?" Greg's hand moved toward the weapons controls without thinking. "Not yet," Jake said, reading through the data. "But several species are preparing their fleets. The reasonable ones want quarantine. The more aggressive ones, the ones currently experiencing human-like anger for the first time, are calling for elimination." Back on the council station, Kyle sat in a locked room with Lisa and a few other humans. The station was in lockdown mode. Security robots stood at every door. Through the windows, they could see ships leaving the station as fast as possible. "We need to do something," Kyle said. He was walking back and forth in the small room. "This is my fault. I need to fix it." "Stop thinking like that," Lisa said, though her voice was tight with stress. "Yes, you triggered this, but you could not have known. No one told us about the Galactic Consciousness Network. They kept it secret specifically to prevent something like this." "Which means they knew it was possible," said Pete Walker. He was the legal advisor for the human group. "They knew physical contact could create this kind of bridge. They never warned us. This is on them as much as it is on us." The displays showed scenes from all over the galaxy. On one world, the algorithmic conclave was having their first arguments in recorded history. Beings that had existed in perfect mathematical harmony were now shouting at each other with raised voices. On another planet, the peaceful Harmony Collective had split into groups. Some wanted to embrace these new emotions and explore what it meant to feel anger and passion. Others demanded a return to their previous state and were willing to fight for it. They were using violence to demand peace, which did not make any sense. The luminary, who were beings made of pure energy, were flickering on and off. They could not maintain their usual form because waves of human emotion kept crashing through their consciousness. This is just the beginning, Jathic explained. The longer the connection stays open, the more deeply human emotional patterns will embed themselves in the galactic consciousness. Within days, species that have known only peace for thousands of years will start having tribal conflicts. Within weeks, we could see wars break out across the galaxy. How do we close the connection? Kyle asked. That is the problem, Jathic said. The connection can only be closed from both ends at the same time. The galactic consciousness must reject the human patterns while humanity must withdraw from the network. But humanity was never supposed to be connected in the first place. We do not know how to cut your end of the bridge. Lisa leaned forward. What about Kyle? He was the point of contact. If he could somehow reverse what he did… Impossible, Jathic interrupted. The bridge is not just through Ambassador Harrison anymore. When the connection was made, it created pathways to the entire human species. Every human with any level of empathy or emotional intelligence is now technically part of the network, whether they know it or not. You have all become unwilling transmitters. So what do we do? Pete asked. Just wait while the galaxy tears itself apart because humans feel things? Jathic's expression was hard to read, but Kyle thought he saw something that might have been respect. Counselor Draken and several others want to solve this problem by eliminating the source. They are proposing a coordinated strike on Earth's solar system. Destroy humanity. Close the connection through extinction. Over my dead body, Kyle said. His hand closed into a fist. Interesting, Jathic said, tilting his head. I felt that. Your anger, your protective instinct. It is still broadcasting through me. And I must admit, I am beginning to understand something I should have seen earlier. What is that? Emotions are not weakness, Jathic said slowly, like he was tasting new words. We elder species evolved beyond physical emotions. We thought we had reached a higher state of being. But perhaps we simply cut off a part of ourselves. Your anger is not just destructive, it is also protective. Your fear is not just weakness, it is also a survival instinct. Your love is not just illogical, it is also the foundation of cooperation and sacrifice. You are starting to sound human, Lisa observed. Perhaps I am, Jathic admitted. And perhaps that is not entirely bad. But the rest of the galaxy is not ready for this change. They are experiencing human emotions without human context, without the millions of years of evolution that taught your species how to use these feelings constructively. Then we teach them, Kyle said suddenly. We help them understand. We show them that emotions do not have to lead to chaos. How do you propose to do that when half the galaxy wants to kill you? Kyle stood up. His diplomatic training was finally working again. The same way I got us into this mess, by making direct contact. If the bridge is open, we use it. We flood the network with more than just raw emotion. We send context. We send understanding. We send our art, our music, our books. Everything that shows how humanity learned to live with these feelings. That is crazy, Pete said. That is human, Jathic corrected. There was definitely respect in his voice now. But it might work. If we can get enough humans to consciously engage with the network, to broadcast their full emotional range with intention rather than just unconscious spillover, we might be able to stabilize the connection instead of cutting it. You want to make the bridge permanent? Lisa looked shocked. I want to give the galaxy a chance to adapt, rather than forcing them to choose between chaos and genocide, Kyle replied. We did not ask for this responsibility, but we have it now, so we need to show the galaxy what humans do best. Which is? Jathic asked. Kyle smiled, though it was not a happy smile. We survive. We adapt. We turn disasters into opportunities, and we never, ever give up without a fight. Outside, alarms went off as the first warships arrived at the council station. Their weapons were charging. The galaxy's verdict was approaching, and humanity's fate was hanging in the balance. But Kyle Harrison had just decided that humanity would not wait passively for judgment. They would fight, not with weapons, but with the very thing that had caused this crisis: their impossible, irrational, powerful humanity. Back on Earth, the crisis had brought the entire planet together in a way nothing else ever could. Director Helen Wright stood in the command center of the Global Defense Initiative. She was watching screens that showed coordinated efforts across every continent. "We need volunteers," she announced to representatives from every country via holographic conference. "Anyone with high emotional intelligence, empaths, artists, musicians, psychologists, anyone who can consciously control and project their emotional states." "You want to turn our people into living transmitters?" asked Commander Ben Hayes. He was speaking from the European Defense Center. "We do not even fully understand what is happening to them." "We do not have time to understand everything," Helen replied. "The fleet Admiral Mitchell detected is just the first wave. According to Ambassador Harrison's last message, we have maybe 48 hours before the hardliners in the Galactic Council convince enough species to support a strike on Earth. We need to show them that human emotions are not just chaos. We need to show them the beauty, the strength, and the wisdom that comes with feeling." Dr. Amy Foster transmitted from the Endeavour and added her analysis. "I have been studying the quantum readings from the Consciousness Network." Kyle was right. We are broadcasting constantly, but it is unfiltered, raw emotion. It is like they are hearing us scream without understanding we are just talking loudly. We need to modulate the signal, add context and meaning. In New York, a jazz musician named Carl Davis gathered an orchestra in Central Park. As they played, thousands of people gathered to listen. Together, they sent waves of sadness, hope, and strong joy into the quantum field. In Mumbai, meditation centers worked together to broadcast calmness and understanding. They showed the galaxy that humans could achieve peace even while feeling deep emotions. In Rio, dancers performed in the streets. Their movements expressed joy so pure and simple that even alien species light years away could understand it. In rural Kenya, an elder named Samuel gathered children around a fire to tell stories. These were ancient tales of human triumph and tragedy that carried wisdom earned over countless generations. Back on the council station, Jothik watched the changes with growing amazement. "It is working," the High Arbiter reported to Kyle. "The chaotic patterns are stabilizing. Instead of random emotional noise, the network is receiving structured human experience. It is still overwhelming for many species, but it is beginning to make sense." "But it is not enough, is it?" Kyle could read the concern in Jothik's body language. "No," the High Arbiter admitted. "The hardliners are still pushing for military action. Admiral Cross of the Draktar Empire is leading a group of warships toward your solar system. They are experiencing human aggression for the first time, and their response is to destroy the source before it corrupts them further. The irony," Lisa said dryly, "is that they are proving our point. Emotions do not make you violent. What you choose to do with them does." "A distinction that may be lost on them," Jothik replied. "Cross and his forces are currently feeling anger, fear, and territorial aggression without any context. To them, humans are a virus that must be eliminated." Admiral Mitchell's voice came through the communication channel. "Ambassador, we are tracking the hostile fleet. They will reach Earth in 36 hours. I need permission to engage defensive protocols." "No," Kyle said firmly. "If we start shooting, we prove their point. We become the violent primitives they fear." "If we do not shoot, we become extinct primitives," Greg countered. "I understand the diplomatic angle, Kyle, but my job is to protect Earth. I cannot do that with good intentions and cultural broadcasts." "Give me 12 more hours," Kyle pleaded. "Let the consciousness broadcast continue. Let humanity show them what we really are." "And if it does not work?" Kyle met Jothik's eyes. "Then you will have to defend yourselves. But I do not think it will come to that." "Your optimism is admirable," Jothik said. "Also very human. You are feeling it too, are you not? Kyle asked. The hope. The belief that things can work out despite impossible odds. The High Arbiter paused, then slowly nodded. Yes, and it is extraordinary. My species eliminated hope as an inefficient emotion millions of years ago. But now, experiencing it through the network, I understand what we lost. Hope drives you to attempt the impossible. It is not logical, but it is powerful. Over the next hours, something remarkable happened. As Earth's consciousness nodes continued their coordinated broadcasts, patterns began to emerge in the galactic network. Species that had been panicking started to calm down. The Velhari reported that they were learning to tell the difference between types of sadness and finding beauty in melancholy. The algorithmic conclave discovered that debate and disagreement could be productive rather than destructive. Most remarkably, younger members of the elder species began to openly question whether emotional suppression had truly been progress or just stagnation. We are seeing a divide, Amy reported from her station. Younger species and younger members of older species are adapting quickly. They are interested in human emotions, even excited to explore them. It is the oldest and most traditional groups that are resisting. Which means the ones in power, Pete noted grimly. The ones with the weapons. Admiral Cross's fleet continued moving toward Earth, but something was changing there too. The crews exposed to the consciousness broadcasts were becoming less certain. Orders were being questioned. Some ships had even broken out of formation. On the bridge of the Draktar flagship Vengeance, Admiral Cross himself was struggling with sensations he had never experienced before. Doubt, empathy, wonder. They were disturbing and fascinating at the same time. Admiral, his second officer reported, "We are receiving a transmission from Earth. It is not military communication, it is... I am not sure what it is." "Show me," Cross commanded. The screen filled with an image from Earth. It showed a simple video of a human woman holding a baby. She was singing, a lullaby that needed no translation. The emotion in her voice, the love in her eyes, the protective instinct in every movement, it all flooded through the consciousness network directly into the minds of everyone on the bridge. Cross felt something break inside him. Not break like a weapon being destroyed, but break like a dam releasing water. Feelings he had not known he was capable of came rushing out. He thought of his own children, grown now and serving in the fleet. He realized he had never sung to them. He had never held them with this kind of tender vulnerability. "Sir?" his second officer asked. "Orders?" Admiral Cross stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he did something that no Draktar admiral had done in 3,000 years of military history. He cried. Water leaked from his reptilian eyes and ran down his scaled face. His crew watched in shock as their commander experienced an emotion they did not even have a word for in their language. "Stand down," Cross said quietly. Then louder. "Send this message to the entire fleet. Stand down. We will not fire on Earth." The offer stunned both his crew and the alien fleets. Several species immediately accepted. Their ships moved into parking orbits around Earth rather than attack positions. They came not to destroy, but to learn. Within the Galactic Council, the hardliners were losing ground. High Arbiter Jathik, now fully experiencing human emotions through the network and understanding them thanks to Earth's broadcasts, called for an emergency session. "We made a mistake," Jathik announced to the assembled council. His voice went through every communication channel in the galaxy. Not just about humanity, but about ourselves. "We believed that evolution meant going beyond emotion, but we were wrong. We did not transcend. We simply let a part of ourselves die. We cut away something that made consciousness valuable." "Heresy!" Counselor Draken shouted. "You have been infected by the human virus." "Have I?" Jathik challenged. "Or have I been awakened? Tell me, Counselor, when was the last time you felt joy? Real, simple joy? When did you last feel passionate about something beyond abstract logic?" The crystalline being flickered uncertainly. "We evolved beyond such primitive responses." "We grew empty," Jathik corrected. "Our civilizations were orderly, yes, but they were also dead." "When was the last time any elder species made art?" When did we last have a scientific breakthrough driven by curiosity rather than systematic procedure? When did we last do something just because it felt right? Senator Vexlick hissed. You propose we become like humans? Chaotic and unpredictable? I propose we learn from humans, Jathik replied. They have what we lost. They feel deeply, love fiercely, fight desperately, and create brilliantly. Yes, they also feel anger and fear and pain. But they have learned to channel these feelings into growth. They turn their emotions into motivation, rather than letting them become destruction. Pretty words, Draken snapped. But the chaos across the galaxy is real. Species are fighting. Order is breaking down. Because they are experiencing emotions without guidance, Kyle spoke up, stepping forward to address the council. Because you kept the consciousness network secret, so no one was prepared for this. But Earth has been sending out more than just raw emotion. We have been sending context, education, examples of how to live with feelings. He gestured, and holographic displays filled the chamber. They showed scenes from across the galaxy. Not chaos, but adaptation. The Velhari had started creating music. It was their first artistic work in recorded history. The algorithmic conclave had begun heated but productive debates that were generating more new ideas in days than they had managed in centuries of cold logic. Even the luminary, beings of pure energy, had discovered that emotional changes did not make them weaker. They made them more dynamic, more capable of change and growth. This is still unprecedented, said Ambassador Tirkon of the Neutral Confederacy. He was one of the few species that had remained quiet during the crisis. Humanity has permanently changed the galactic consciousness. The question is whether we treat this as an attack to be punished or an evolution to be embraced. The debate went on for hours. But slowly, the mood changed. Younger delegates, those who had grown up with the consciousness network but had never questioned it, began to speak up. They talked about feeling curious for the first time, about wanting to explore and create, about understanding that efficiency and order were not the only values worth pursuing. Finally, after what felt like forever, the council called for a vote. The resolution was this: humanity would not be punished for disrupting the galactic consciousness. Instead, they would be granted temporary membership in the Galactic Council, with one condition. They would help teach other species how to understand and integrate emotions in healthy ways. Earth will become the galaxy's emotional education center, Jathik announced. Humans will be ambassadors of feeling, helping species across the stars rediscover what they lost or develop what they never had. Kyle felt relief so powerful it almost knocked him over. We accept, he said, though I have to point out the irony. 3 days ago, you told us we were too primitive to join the galaxy. Now you are making us teachers. 3 days ago, I was afraid of what you represented, Jathik replied. Now I understand that what you represent is possibility, growth, the courage to feel deeply and act anyway. Over the following weeks, Earth went through a transformation unlike anything in human history. Ships from across the galaxy arrived not with weapons but with delegates eager to learn. Humans found themselves in the strange position of teaching aliens how to cry, how to laugh, how to love, and yes, how to be angry without being destructive. Admiral Cross of the Draktar Empire became one of Earth's most frequent visitors. He was often seen attending concerts or sitting in on therapy sessions. He learned emotional regulation techniques that he then brought back to his own people. The algorithmic conclave established an embassy in the form of a debate hall. Their representatives argued passionately about topics that would have been settled by mathematical formulas just weeks earlier. Even Councillor Draken eventually visited. Their crystalline form flickered with emotions they were just beginning to understand. I still believe you have caused tremendous disruption, they told Kyle during a private meeting. But perhaps disruption was necessary. We had grown comfortable, stagnant. Maybe we needed someone to shake the foundations. Just so we are clear, Kyle replied with a slight smile. I did not mean to shake anything. I was just trying to make a point about respecting other species. And you made quite a point. Draken's form flickered with what might have been amusement. The galaxy will never underestimate humans again. The integration was not without challenges. Some species struggled more than others. There were incidents, conflicts born of misunderstanding emotions that were still strange and new. But humanity, having lived with these feelings for their entire evolutionary history, proved to be patient teachers. Helen Wright established the Institute for Emotional Understanding. Human psychologists, artists, and philosophers worked alongside alien researchers to develop frameworks for healthy emotional integration. The Institute's motto, suggested by Kyle, became famous across the galaxy. Feeling is not weakness. It is the foundation of wisdom. Admiral Mitchell found his military career taking an unexpected turn. He became head of the Cultural Defense Initiative, protecting visiting aliens from overwhelming emotional experiences while they learned to navigate human society. That is the theory anyway, Lisa replied. In practice, emotions are messy, but they are our mess, and we have learned to live with them. That is what makes humans remarkable, Jothik said. Not that you feel, but that you have built entire civilizations while feeling. You have achieved peace despite your capacity for anger. You have created beauty despite your capacity for destruction. You have loved despite your capacity for pain. That takes a strength we elder species never developed. 6 months after Kyle's fateful touch, the Galactic Council formally made Earth a full member. The ceremony was unlike any previous induction. Instead of formal speeches and logical proceedings, it included music, dancing, and yes, several emotional speeches that left delegates from multiple species in tears. Kyle stood at the podium, looking out at representatives from across the galaxy. Some were beings he could barely understand. Others were more familiar. But all of them were now connected through the consciousness network. All of them were feeling in ways that would have been impossible before. 6 months ago, I stood before this council as a supplicant, he began. I was desperate to prove humanity's worth. In my desperation, I did something stupid and broke every diplomatic rule in existence. I touched High Arbiter Jothik, and in doing so, I accidentally infected the galaxy with humanity. There was scattered laughter and murmurs throughout the chamber. But what we have learned since then is that it was not an infection. It was a reminder that consciousness without emotion is incomplete, that logic without feeling is empty, that efficiency without passion is hollow. He looked directly at Jothik, who nodded in agreement. Humans are not special because we are uniquely capable of emotion. We are special because we are uniquely experienced at living with emotion. And we are honored to share that experience with the galaxy. Some of you were afraid that human emotions would cause chaos. And you were right. We did cause chaos. But from that chaos came growth. From disruption came evolution. From fear came understanding. The galaxy will never be the same. The careful order you maintained for thousands of years is gone. But in its place, we have something better. We have a galaxy that feels, that creates, that loves and hopes and dreams. We have a galaxy that is alive in ways it has not been for ages. So yes, I touched an alien and unleashed chaos. But that chaos became awakening. And the galaxy will never underestimate humans again. Not because we are dangerous, but because we are human. And being human means never giving up on the possibility that tomorrow can be better than today, no matter how impossible that might seem. The chamber erupted in applause. For the first time in 10,000 years of Galactic Council history, it was not polite and measured. It was enthusiastic, emotional, and completely human. High Arbiter Jothik approached Kyle as the ceremony concluded. Thank you, Ambassador Harrison, for showing us what we had forgotten, for reminding us that consciousness is meant to be felt, not just calculated. Thank you for not destroying Earth when you had the chance, Kyle replied. Oh, we considered it quite seriously, Jothik said. There was warmth in his tone that would have been impossible weeks ago. But then you made us feel hope. And once you feel hope, destruction becomes much harder to justify. As delegates mixed in the reception after the ceremony, sharing stories and emotions and beginning to build genuine friendships across species, Kyle found himself standing with the original human delegation, Pete, Lisa, and others who had been there from the beginning. Well, Pete said, raising a glass of earth wine. We came here to join the galaxy. I would say we succeeded, even if we did it in the most dramatic way possible. Very human of us, Lisa agreed. Stumble into a crisis, nearly cause an apocalypse, somehow turn it into a triumph. Is it a triumph, though? Kyle wondered. We have changed everything. There is no going back. Would you want to go back? Lisa asked. Knowing what we know now? Understanding that the entire galaxy was living half a life, suppressing the very things that make existence meaningful? No, Kyle admitted. I would not change anything. Even the scary parts. Even the parts where we nearly died. Especially those parts, a new voice said. Admiral Cross had approached. His reptilian features were arranged in what Kyle had learned to recognize as a smile. Humans taught us that fear is not weakness. It is the price of caring about something. And I find that I am very fond of caring. To fear, then, Pete raised his glass, and to hope, love, anger, joy, sadness, and all the other impossible emotions that make us who we are. To humanity, Cross added, who touched the galaxy and taught it to feel. They drank together, human and alien, representatives of a new galactic order built not on cold logic but on warm connection. Outside the windows, ships from 1,000 worlds waited in orbit. Their crews were eager to learn more about these impossible humans and the gift they had accidentally given the universe. Kyle Harrison had come to the Galactic Council to prove humanity deserved a place among the stars. Instead, he had given the stars a reason to want humanity there. Not because humans were powerful or advanced, but because they were human, with all the messy, complicated, beautiful emotions that came with it. The galaxy would indeed never underestimate humans again. But more importantly, it would never again underestimate the power of feeling itself. And that changed everything. 3 years later, the transformation was complete. The galaxy was louder, messier, and infinitely more vibrant. Art flourished in corners of space that had known only sterile efficiency. Debates grew passionate where once only algorithms decided outcomes. Love stories began between species that had barely spoken before. And at the heart of it all was Earth, the little planet that had accidentally taught the galaxy to feel again. Not through conquest or superiority, but through simple, honest, impossible humanity. Kyle Harrison, now Earth's permanent ambassador to the Galactic Council, stood in the same chamber where it had all begun. The crystalline walls still shifted colors based on emotional states, but now they displayed a riot of colors unimaginable 3 years earlier. We have come a long way, Jothic observed, joining him at the window. We have, Kyle agreed. Sometimes I still cannot believe it worked out. Very human of you, Jothic replied warmly, to doubt even your greatest successes. It is one of the more charming aspects of your species. We have our moments, Kyle smiled, though I prefer the charming ones to the nearly causing galactic war ones. They are often the same moments, Jothic noted wisely. That is what makes humans so valuable. You remind us that growth is uncomfortable, change is necessary, and that the most important things in existence cannot be calculated or predicted. They must be felt. Below, the council floor was filling with delegates from species old and new. All were preparing for another day of galactic governance. But it was different now. There would be arguments, surely. Conflicts, certainly. But they would be real conflicts. Passionate disagreements between beings who cared deeply about outcomes, not cold calculations between emotionless machines. Do you ever regret it? Kyle asked. What we did to your orderly galaxy? Jothic considered the question seriously before answering. I regret that we waited so long to feel. I regret that we convinced ourselves that emotion was primitive rather than essential. But do I regret what you did? Never. You gave us back something we had lost, Ambassador. You gave us back our souls. I just touched you, Kyle said softly. That is all I did. Sometimes, Jothic replied. One touch is all it takes to change everything. You reached out in desperation and grabbed hold of the galaxy itself. And the galaxy has been better for it ever since. They stood together in comfortable silence, human and Zathari, watching as the council prepared for another day. A galaxy that now knew how to feel. a galaxy that had learned the hard way that emotions were not weakness to be eliminated, but strength to be embraced. Kyle Harrison had touched an alien and unleashed chaos, but from that chaos had come understanding. From disruption had come growth, and from one human's desperate attempt to be heard had come a galactic awakening. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again, not because they feared them, but because they had learned to feel as humans feel. And that changed everything. My whole career preparing to defend Earth from alien invasion, he joked during one interview. Never thought I would end up defending aliens from culture shock. Lisa Chen became humanity's chief liaison to the Zathari. She worked directly with Jathic to improve the consciousness network. Together, they developed rules that allowed species to adjust their connection level. They could experience emotions at intensities they could handle while gradually building tolerance. The network was meant to create unity through shared logic, Jathic reflected during one of their sessions. But humans have shown us that true unity comes from shared feeling. When you feel another's pain, you cannot easily cause more. When you share another's joy, you want to create more of it. The message rippled through the coalition fleet, causing confusion and, in some cases, anger. Several ships broke away, their commanders still determined to eliminate the human threat. But others followed Cross's lead, moved by the emotions now flooding through them. On Earth, director Helen Wright watched the developing situation with careful hope. "Some ships are still coming," she noted. "We are not safe yet." But Kyle, watching from the council station, saw something the military analysts did not. "Look at their approach vectors," he said. "The ones still advancing are not in attack formation. They are coming out of confusion, not aggression." He was right. The ship commanders who continued toward Earth were those most affected by the consciousness network. They were species now experiencing emotions so overwhelming that they needed answers. They needed understanding. They needed to see the source of these impossible feelings with their own eyes. Admiral Mitchell made a decision that would have been unthinkable 3 days earlier. "Open a channel to all approaching vessels," he ordered. "This is Admiral Greg Mitchell of the Earth Defense Ship Endeavour. You are approaching human territory. We could see this as an attack, but we choose not to. Instead, we invite you to talk. Come to Earth not as enemies, but as guests. Let us show you what humanity really is." "How do we do that?" asked Colonel Nina Torres from the Pacific Command. "Through deliberate emotional projection," Amy explained. "When you consciously think about an emotion, understand it, and intentionally experience it, the quantum signature is different. It carries more information, more detail. Instead of broadcasting just anger, you broadcast why you are angry, what you are protecting, and why that makes sense." Helen nodded. "Then we find people who can do that and we coordinate them. Every major city, every cultural center. We set up what we are calling consciousness nodes. Places where people can gather and deliberately project human experience into the galactic network." Within 24 hours, the response was amazing. Millions of volunteers came forward. Concert halls opened their doors for musicians to play their most emotional pieces. Theaters staged performances of humanity's greatest dramas. Museums opened late, with visitors consciously reflecting on artwork while understanding their emotional responses. A sound indicated an incoming call. Lisa turned on the communication screen. "Hi, Arbiter." Jathic's face appeared, though he looked nothing like the powerful figure from earlier. His eyes were dim and his posture showed exhaustion. "Ambassador Harrison," Jathic began, "we need to talk." "I am ready to do whatever it takes to help," Kyle said immediately. "Then you need to understand the full scope of what is happening." Jathic made a gesture, and holographic displays filled the air around them. "I was just trying to make you understand," Kyle said. His mouth was dry. "I was trying to show you that humans deserve respect." "You do not understand what you have unleashed," Jathic said. The great aliens still had not moved. "Our nervous systems are connected to something you do not know about. Something called the Galactic Consciousness Network. When you touched me, you created a bridge. You connected humanity to the network." Kyle's diplomatic training had covered many possible disasters, but not this one. "Galactic consciousness? You never told us about any?" "Because primitives like you were not supposed to know," an alien named Draken shouted. His crystal body was flashing with angry colors. The network is only for evolved species, the elder races who have moved past physical violence, and you just injected your entire species into it. Alarms started blaring throughout the station. Security forces ran into the room, but they seemed confused about what to do. Kyle was just standing there, looking scared and worried,